Let me share the screen. All right. So till yesterday हमने अपना जितना पिछला कोर्स था जो हमने पहले भी स्टडी किया था हमने उसकी रिवीजन की just to make sure कि everybody is on the same page और बहुत पहले का कोर्स छूटा हुआ था तो उसको थोड़ा सा पार्ट पिछला रिवाइज जरूर करना चाहिए just to make sure कि हर कोई समझ भी रहा है हर कोई हमारी बात फॉलो भी कर रहा है ठीक है तो ammonia and fertilizers का टॉपिक था I covered the part where we talk about ammonia, properties of ammonia, uses of ammonia, the synthesis and manufacturing of ammonia, and then now we are going to discuss the fertilizers part. Okay? What we are going to do today is to convert this ammonia into different other fertilizers for the usage. Why? Because the paragraph right in front of you on the left hand side states that liquid ammonia can be used directly as a fertilizer, but it is a very unpleasant liquid, unpleasant to handle and unpleasant to transport. Okay? As we had talked about properties of ammonia and as we already know that this is a pungent gas, a gas in which it's difficult for us to breathe in, so ammonia is not a good liquid to handle with. So what we do is that we convert this gaseous ammonia or liquefied ammonia into solid fertilizers and then we use those solid fertilizers. On the other hand, using of solid fertilizer is very easy to handle, to transport, and easiest for the farmer to spread it onto the land, into the crops, without using any equipment. As we have seen, the farmers in poor countries, especially, what they do is that they fill up bags with ammonia, they carry the bags on their back, and they take a handful of, not just ammonia, sorry, actually the solid fertilizers, they take a handful out of a solid fertilizer out of that bag and they simply spread it on the land by throwing it away. So that's the easiest part to deal with when it comes to a solid fertilizer for the farmers in the poor countries. Okay? Of course, in developed countries, they can come up with different other kind of machines and tractors and other things to dispose of properly the solid fertilizer into the land, making sure that the fertilizer is coming in contact with the soil in a very appropriate way, also considering the amount of fertilizer used as per the area that the fertilizer is used upon. ठीक है? So हमारे जैसे मुल्कों के लिए बहुत आसान है. फार्मर ने उसे उठाया बैग को, बैग में हाथ डाला, एक मुट्ठी भर के फर्टिलाइजर निकाला और उसे वैसे ही छिड़क दिया, फेंक दिया. ठीक है? So ये बड़ा easy, बड़ा inexpensive method बन जाता है. ठीक. फिर इसे हैंडल करना, ट्रांसपोर्ट करना, फर्टिलाइजर फैक्ट्री के लिए भी बहुत इजी है. जी.
तो ऐसे सिर्फ फार्मर के हाथों को कोई नुकसान नहीं?
नहीं बेटा, कोई नुकसान नहीं. मतलब फर्टिलाइजर, सॉलिड फर्टिलाइजर, जब तक उसके हाथ खुश्क है उसके हाथों को कोई नुकसान नहीं, क्योंकि फर्टिलाइजर ने भी जमीन में जाके ऑटोमेटिकली डिकम्पोज नहीं होना. Actually, it's the water in the soil that uses that fertilizer for solubility reasons, and then that fertilizer goes with the water down in the earth, underground portion where the roots of the plants are, and then it is absorbed by the roots of the plant. That's how it is used. So until unless his hands are dry, nothing is going to happen to his hands. On the other case, just to answer your question and to make sure that you understand it, even if the hands are wet, the fertilizers are not going to do anything to the hands if they're not there for a longer period of time. और of course वहाँ पे fertilizer को बहुत ज़्यादा duration के लिए नहीं रहते. उसने fertilizer को सिर्फ हाथ से उठाना और उठा के फेंक देना है. उसने उसे हाथ में पकड़ के काफी टाइम तक नहीं रखना. So even if the hands are a little bit wet, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा. ठीक. आप कुछ पूछ रहे थे?
नो सर.
ऑलराइट. बच्चों के जहन में ये क्वेश्चन क्यों आता है? गुड क्वेश्चन आयान. बाय द वे, हमारे जहन में ये क्वेश्चन इसलिए आता है अगर फर्टिलाइजर एसिडिक है या अल्कलाइन है तो वो डेफिनेटली करोसिव होगा एंड देन इट इज गोइंग टू टेयर द स्ट्रेन अपार्ट. ठीक है? आपके हाथ आहिस्ता आहिस्ता फटना, उसकी स्किन फटना शुरू हो जाएगी if that has an acidic or alkaline effect on a higher side of each. ठीक है? So let me tell you, the fertilizers we commonly use have a pH in between 6 to 8. So neither they are very acidic, nor they are very basic or alkaline. So even if your hands are wet, the fertilizers are not going to do any harm or go for a corrosive action for that matter. Understandable?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Okay. Moving on. We're going to make a lot of fertilizers. Only a couple are written here in the book. So what we are going to do is that we're going to do the fertilizers given in the book. Plus, we're going to write extra on this topic. ठीक है अगर तो पहले से आपके इस टॉपिक पे पहले से कुछ लिखा हुआ वेल एंड गुड नहीं लिखा हुआ we're going to write it now. ठीक है so make sure your books are ready with you. Your books are open at page number 236. Okay, actually that's page number 237. ठीक है page number 237, you also have a pen or a pencil in your hand. See? Let's start with the bottommost paragraph, right hand side. Okay, left hand side, sorry. Ammonium nitrate and other fertilizers. First of all, we're going to start with ammonium nitrate, that is commonly known as nitram. The most important nitrogenous fertilizers, contains a lot of nitrogen, and actually by mass it has a 35% of nitrogen. So how do we calculate that ammonium nitrate, which has the formula of NH4NO3 made by two ions, NH4 ion, and let me use the spotlight here, NH4 ion, NH4 positive ion, and NO3 negative ion, by which we make this ammonium nitrate. How are we going to calculate that it has 75% nitrogen? Does anybody remember that? Because that was a part of chapter number 6. See, no? Okay. Let's do something different. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to write a few things over here, and you're going to copy them. Okay. Let's write them here. And now let me tell you, I can only write simple text. I cannot come up with superscripts and subscripts. What I'm about to write does not contain any superscript. So we are simply talking about subscripts. Take it. Whatever I'm going to write in numbers, you're supposed to write that as. Take it. Just a minute. So let me tell you that NH3 ammonia, that is, plus HNO3 nitric acid, that is, gives us NH4NO3 ammonium nitrate. You're going to write that as subscripts. वो नंबर बड़े बड़े जितने मैंने लिखे हुए हैं वो नहीं लिखते हैं, आपने नंबर्स को सबस्क्रिप्ट में छोटा करके लिखना है. ठीक है? This is the first equation you require. ये लिख लें. ठीक है? Next equation. 2NH3, अब 2 subscript नहीं है, 2 molar number है. ठीक है? Plus H2SO4, that gives us actually, wow, static. Let me write it again, because the whole thing was erased just because there was a small wrong click. The next one is ammonium sulfate. You can see its formula on the right hand side in the orange portion. Okay? However, we are writing the equation, 2 molecules of ammonia plus H2SO4 sulfuric acid gives us NH4 twice. There are brackets over here plus SO4. ठीक है, अगर आपको ये फॉर्मूला नहीं समझ आ रहा जो मैंने यहाँ पर प्रोडक्ट में लिखा है, लेट मी क्लैरिफाई कि ये फॉर्मूला यहाँ पर आपके सामने ये मौजूद है, जहाँ पर आपको स्पॉटलाइट नजर आ रही है राइट हैंड साइड पर. ठीक है, यहाँ पर NH4 twice SO4 है. Okay? Let me convert the text. Is the text readable in blue color?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'm going to make it a little better. The text is easier to read if it's in black color. All right. So moving on. I was talking about the percentage of nitrogen in ammonium nitrate as 35%. So let me clarify. First of all, it's a question of percentage composition. We have studied percentage composition back in chapter number 6, which percentage composition was, it was approximately the same thing like we calculate the percentage of your marks. What we do is we take your obtained marks, we divide them from your total marks, and we get your percentage. In case of a substance, what we do is that we take the mass of an element, we divide it by the mass of whole compound, and that's how we get a percentage of an element. So clarifying it more, let me write it over here for you, that for NH4NO3, NH4NO3 is actually equal to what? The mass of N is 14 plus the mass of H4 would be 1 multiplied by 4, and then the mass of N would be 14 again, and then for the mass of oxygen, that is 16 multiplied by 3. What's the total? What do you think the total is? 14 plus 14, 28, 28 plus 4, 32, 32 plus 48 is equal to? Come on, come on, come on. Be quick, be quick. Your mental maths is too weak. The whole class is sitting like a duck. Ducks, actually. Come on. Aren't you good with maths, mental maths? So, is that visible? So what we are supposed to do is that for the percentage of nitrogen, we are supposed to take mass of nitrogen. What is mass of nitrogen? There are 2 atoms of nitrogen in there. So that would be 14 plus 14. That is actually equal to 28. So we are going to directly write 28 and we're going to divide it by 80. And that's how we get the approximation of 35% of nitrogen in there. That's how we get the mass nitrogen 35% in NH4NO3. Can you calculate the mass percentage of nitrogen in ammonium sulfate? The second formula we have written on your left. वो कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं अगर आपको सारे masses पता हो, आपके सामने periodic table हो.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What do you need? You need a calculator and a periodic table. Formulas आपके सामने हैं. You can always come up with the answer of percentage of nitrogen in ammonium sulfate. Let me tell you, ammonium sulfate में nitrogen की percentage जो है वो कम होती है, less than 35%. You can calculate it at your end. हम अभी सारी calculations में नहीं जा रहे. We're not doing chapter 6 right now. What we are focusing on is fertilizers and their efficiency according to the percentage of nitrogen in them. So for a fact, I'm going to tell you that the percentage of nitrogen is actually 35% in ammonium nitrate, less than 35% in ammonium sulfate. Okay? Clear? So moving on. Ammonium nitrate is soluble in water, as all other ammonium salts are. Okay? For example, ammonium sulfate. The solubility is important because plant needs soluble nitrogen compounds that they can take up through their roots. As I've told you before, the 2 types of nitrogen compounds the plant can use are ammonium compounds, जिसके अंदर ammonium form होती है, and nitrates, which are made up of nitridines. So हम 2 तरह से nitrogen दे सकते हैं plants को, and these are the only 2 ways we can give nitrogen to the plants through the absorption with the water from the roots. ठीक है? So सिर्फ 2 forms हो सकती हैं, ammonium or nitrate. Clear? Ammonium nitrate provide both of these ions. इसलिए ammonium nitrate is considered a very good fertilizer. Ammonium salts tend to make the soil slightly acidic. So to overcome this, we can mix them with chalk, calcium carbonate, that would neutralize this effect. Nitrochalk is an example of compound fertilizer. Okay? Now we need to go with a certain definitions in order to understand this. जितना कुछ लिखा हुआ है इसके लिए कुछ definitions की ज़रूरत है. So let's go with the definitions so we can actually understand it. ठीक है? The definitions are all given in the orange portion. Let's go through the orange portion. A modern fertilizer factory will produce two main types of products. Number one, straight N fertilizers. Number two, NPK fertilizers. Let's start with straight N fertilizers. Straight N fertilizers are the fertilizers that contain solid nitrogen containing fertilizers. Okay? And for example, ammonium nitrate, it contains nitrogen in solid form for the absorption, and that fertilizers are actually sold in pellet form. Does anybody know what pellets are? जी किसी को पता है? All right, let's explain. I'm going to take a funny example and then I'm going to explain you the pellets. क्लासेस में कॉमन बात होती है, हम ड्यूरिंग क्लास छेड़ना चाह रहे होते हैं, अपने फ्रेंड्स को तंग करना चाह रहे होते हैं, स्पेशली ड्यूरिंग ब्रेक. सो हम एक कॉमन जोक जो होता है वो ये होता है कि हम अपनी किसी बुक से, किसी रजिस्टर से एक छोटा सा पेज का टुकड़ा लेते हैं, ठीक है, हम उसे टेयर आउट करते हैं, फिर हम उसे रोल करके ना से गोल सी एक गोली सी बना लेते हैं, ठीक है, लाइक अ बुलेट, ठीक है, वो बहुत छोटी सी होती है, और फिर हम वो मारते हैं, क्योंकि वैसे पेपर फेंकेंगे तो किसी को लगेगा नहीं और फील भी नहीं होगा, जाएगा भी नहीं इतनी दूर तक. तो अगर हम उस तरह से गुजर मुचर करके खराब से करके एक छोटी सी बुलेट सी बना लेते हैं ना, तो अगर वो मारेंगे ना तो वो लगेगी और हम उसके साथ मजाक भी कर सकेंगे. आई होप each and every single one of you has tried this in his lifetime और उसने किसी friend को इस तरह से तंग किया होगा. That small bullet-like structure is actually known as a pellet. Pellet एक solid form होती है जिसे हम कोशिश करते हैं एक round shape की. No, though it's not exactly round, ठीक है, लेकिन वो एक छोटा solid form होता है. Now pellets are very easy to dispose. मैं already example दे चुका हूँ. Farmer के लिए pellet को dispose करना solid form में बहुत आसान है. उसने एक bag fill किया fertilizer से, एक handful उस bag से निकाला pellets का और उठा के फेंक दिए. वो सारे जो ना फैल जाएंगे उस agricultural land में, और automatically after watering वो जो ना water का part बन जाएंगे, absorb हो जाएंगे underground soil में, roots उन्हें take up कर लेंगी, and then it's a food for plants. Is pellet understandable for the class, the whole class? If you have a question, you may interrupt right away. All right, I hope that's understandable. Now, you would see three examples in front of you: ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, and urea. The first two have been explained. I have given you an equation for ammonium nitrate. वो आपने लिख ली. I've given you an equation for ammonium sulfate. We have also discussed that. We have also discussed the percentage. Urea is yet to be discussed. As you can see in front of you, the formula for urea is CONH2 twice. Okay? How do we form urea? This is very important. And the percentage of nitrogen is also important in case of urea. Okay? So we're going to write that. Previous equations आप सब लिख चुके होंगे? Because I'm about to raise it. चलिए previous equations रहने देते हैं, हम ऐसा करते हैं कि हम erase कर देते हैं calculation part. Let's write the equation for urea. Let me tell you what we do is that we react NH3 with carbon dioxide, the common gas that all of us breathe out, and then it gives us, remember मैं यहाँ पे arrows put up नहीं कर सक रहा हूँ, इसलिए arrows go put up किए जा सकते हैं, that's a part of drawing और मुझे बार बार उसके लिए ज़्यादा time spend करना पड़ेगा. I'm using the equal to sign, but none of you are allowed to use the equal to sign. आपके पास pencils हैं, लिहाजा आप हर equal to को जो मैं यहाँ पर chemical equation में लिख रहा हूँ, not in other practical work or problems or tasks or numericals. उसके अलावा सारे में equal to same रहेगा, सिर्फ chemical equations में आप equal to को arrow sign से replace कर रहे होंगे and a single straight forward arrow use कर रहे होंगे, ठीक है? So that gives us actually CO and NH2, and that is a twice, plus it gives us H2O. It gives us some water as well. ठीक? So that's how we react ammonia with carbon dioxide and we get urea plus we get water. Can you see the equation? Please note down that the equation is very important. Also, what I'm going to write over here is that the percentage of nitrogen in urea is actually equal to 46.6%. Okay? he can calculate it at home. That I may give you that as a task if we were in actual class. अगर करना चाहें जरूर करें, it would be a good practice. Otherwise, let me tell you that the percentage of nitrogen in urea is 46.6%. As we have previously discussed, ammonium nitrate is 35%, ammonium sulfate is even less than 35%, and urea is 46.6%. So which of these straight-end fertilizers would give you maximum amount of nitrogen? I'm asking the questions from Zoha. जी जोहा, अमोनियम नाइट्रेट, अमोनियम सल्फेट और यूरिया में से किस में नाइट्रोजन की परसेंटेज सबसे ज्यादा है?
यूरिया में।
यूरिया में। वेरी गुड। लेट्स सी, वेरी इजी टू सी एंड चेक, ठीक है? तो अगर यूरिया में सबसे ज्यादा है तो मोस्ट बेनिफिशियल कौन सी होगी जोहा इन तीनों में से? अगर हमने नाइट्रोजन प्रोवाइड करना है प्लांट को तो बेनिफिशियल कौन सी हो जाएगी? ऑफ कोर्स दैट वुड बी
अमोनिया।
नहीं, यूरिया। अमोनियम नाइट्रेट, अमोनियम सल्फेट में और यूरिया में से यूरिया सबसे बेनिफिशियल होगी, ठीक है? लेट मी टेल यू दैट द फर्टिलाइजर्स यूज्ड ऑल ओवर पाकिस्तान इज यूरिया। हम इन 3 स्ट्रेट एंड फर्टिलाइजर्स में यूरिया सबसे ज्यादा यूज करते हैं, ठीक है? Now this comes with a question that is not written here in the book but has been used in past papers and you're going to write that on your book. मेरे पास अभी इतना writing space नहीं है कि मैं यहाँ पर ये चीज लिख सकूं, but why is ammonium nitrate not preferred, why is urea preferred over ammonium nitrate, or why is ammonium nitrate not used in Pakistan? ammonium nitrate एक बहुत अच्छी option थी क्योंकि वो ammonium ions और nitrate ions दोनों दे रही है, ठीक है? ये ammonium ions भी नहीं दे रही है, nitrate ions भी नहीं दे रही यूरिया, लेकिन फिर भी हम इसे ज्यादा परसेंटेज की वजह से यूज कर रहे हैं और उसे नहीं यूज कर रहे. There must be a reason behind it. ठीक है? So what you are going to write on your books is that reason. Reason क्या है? Please write note on your books. मैं sentence repeat करूँगा एक दो मर्तबा, आपने exactly ये sentence note कर लेना है. Ammonium nitrate is extremely explosive at slightly higher temperatures, so it is difficult to handle, store and transport. ठीक है? I'm going to repeat the line. Ammonium nitrate is extremely explosive at slightly higher temperatures, so it is difficult to handle, store and transport. ठीक है? You're actually writing a disadvantage of ammonium nitrate. अमोनियम नाइट्रेट दुनिया की बहुत सारे ठंडे कंट्रीज में, ऐसे विंटर बेस्ड एरियाज जहाँ पे ज्यादा टेम्परेचर कम रहता है, वहां पे प्रोड्यूस भी की जाती है, वहां पे स्टोर भी बड़ी इजीली हो जाती है और ट्रांसपोर्ट भी की जाती है. बट द हॉट कंट्रीज और द कंट्रीज क्लोजर टू इक्वेटर, अर्थ इक्वेटर, वो कंट्रीज अमोनियम नाइट्रेट को बहुत अवॉइड करती हैं. क्यों? उन कंट्रीज में मोस्ट ऑफ द ईयर, मोस्ट मंथ्स ऑफ द ईयर टेम्परेचर इतना हाई होता है कि जो इजीली अमोनियम नाइट्रेट को जो है वो एक एक्सप्लोसिव में कन्वर्ट कर सकता है. अमोनियम नाइट्रेट बहुत जल्दी एक्सप्लोड हो जाती है, बहुत थोड़े से टेम्परेचर 45 डिग्री, 50 डिग्री, 60 डिग्री पे अमोनियम नाइट्रेट बड़े आराम से एक्सप्लोड हो सकती है और इसके एक्सप्लोजन भी अच्छा खासा होता है क्योंकि नाइट्रोजन, ऑक्सीजन, हाइड्रोजन ये सारे गैसेस में कन्वर्ट होते हैं अपॉन अ सिंगल फ्लेम और बूम, देयर यू गो. Let me also tell you that the ammonium nitrate in different parts of the world in past 2 decades, 2000 के बाद ammonium nitrate को टेररिस्ट एक्सप्लोसिव के तौर पे भी इस्तेमाल किया गया. यानी टेररिस्ट कहीं से फर्टिलाइजर की फॉर्म में से इस्तेमाल लेते हैं, इसे पैक करते हैं, इसके बॉम्ब्स बनाते हैं और एक सिंपल फ्लेम एंड यू कैन लाइट अप द होल अमोनियम नाइट्रेट फॉर एन एक्सप्लोजन. ठीक है? सो अब अमोनियम नाइट्रेट को सिर्फ विंटर बेस्ड एरियाज में यूज किया जाता है, वहां किया जाता है जहां आप इसे इजीली हैंडल, स्टोर और ट्रांसपोर्ट कर सकते हो. और ऐसे कंट्रीज जिनमें मोस्ट ऑफ द ईयर टेम्परेचर हायर रहता है तो इसमें स्टोरेज, हैंडलिंग, ट्रांसपोर्टेशन सारा कुछ डिफिकल्ट है, तो हम इस चीज से बचते हैं. पाकिस्तान में हम अमोनियम नाइट्रेट अमूमन बहुत कम बना रहे होते हैं और वो भी वो अपॉन नीड या अपॉन रिक्वेस्ट होती है. उसको भी हमें जब स्टोर करना पड़ता है तो हम अमोनियम नाइट्रेट को या तो बहुत वेल वेंटिलेटेड एरिया पे स्टोर करते हैं या फिर अंडर एयर कंडीशन एटमॉस्फेयर स्टोर करते हैं. और टन्स ऑफ अमोनियम नाइट्रेट को एयर कंडीशन एटमॉस्फेयर में स्टोर करने का खर्चा बहुत है, तो पाकिस्तान ये काम नहीं करता. ऑन द अदर हैंड यूरिया, ठीक है. यूरिया एक्सप्लोसिव इतना नहीं है. यूरिया बड़े आराम से स्टोर हो सकता है, हैंडल हो सकता है, ट्रांसपोर्ट हो सकता है, और इसमें परसेंटेज भी नाइट्रोजन की हायर होती है. तो पाकिस्तान बेसिकली यूरिया को इस वजह से प्रेफर कर रहा होता है. hope I have explained this thing, and disadvantages of ammonium nitrate or advantage of urea has been a common past paper question that is not given in the book, but you were supposed to write it on the book. I hope you have written every important piece of information on your books. Have you? लिख चुके हैं सब? I need a yes.
Yes, sir.
Good, good. So let's come to the next point, NPK compound fertilizer. Before I discuss this compound fertilizer, let me come back to the fact that we have discussed just before this compound fertilizer. Ammonium salts tend to make the soil slightly acidic. To overcome this, what we do is that we mix this fertilizer with chalk, calcium carbonate, the same chalk that we used to write about 2 or 3 decades ago on blackboards. Now we have converted our blackboards into whiteboards, and we're not using chalk anymore. We're actually using appropriate markers, ink-based markers for that purpose. Okay? Now we mix the fertilizer with chalk. That will neutralize the effect. We usually call these as compound fertilizers. Compound fertilizers actually does not just contain one ingredient or one nutrient for the plant. They contain all important nutrients, number one. Number two, they may mix something in order to neutralize the acidic effects of fertilizers. Let's study NPK compound fertilizers. I'm going to spot it for you. They are mixtures that supply 3 most essential elements lost from soil by extensive usage, okay, namely nitrogen with the symbol N, phosphorus with the symbol P, and potassium with the symbol K. These symbols are important to write because these symbols N, P, K are used in the name of fertilizers. So we call them compound fertilizers, or we can simply call them NPK fertilizer if they consist all of this nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It means we need to use some different fertilizers, the fertilizers that may consist phosphorus and the fertilizers that may consist of potassium, because so far we were just talking about fertilizers that only provide nitrogen. Because if you take a look at the formula of ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, and urea, you won't see any phosphorus or potassium in there. All right. So what we do is that we make a mixture of many fertilizers. Ammonium nitrate provides nitrogen. Ammonium phosphate, as the name suggests, it provides phosphorus. And potassium chloride, as the name suggests, provides potassium. So if we use a mixture of all of these three, we can use them in different proportions to suit different conditions or different soils or different types of crops. And we can actually convert them into appropriate plant food. NPK compound fertilizers. ठीक है? Understandable? सबको समझ आता है?
Yes,
If you have
sir.
a question, you may ask. If not, then I'm going to move forward. The production process for NPK fertilizer is complex. It involves the production of not just only ammonia, but it also involves sulfuric acid or phosphoric acid or other acids that we can react. As you have seen, अब bottom पे जो मैंने equations लिखी हैं, उनको गौर से देखें. You would see in every equation that what we are doing is that we are taking that alkaline gas ammonia and we are reacting it with an acid. Take a look. In the first reaction, the acid is nitric acid. In the second reaction, let's ask somebody a question. Tanisha, I'm going to ask a question from you. Tanisha, in the second equation at the bottom of the page, which acid I'm using? Tanisha, you there?
Yes, sir.
So which acid at the bottom of the page in the second equation is being used to produce ammonium sulfate?
H2SO4.
Name of the acid, please. We can all read the formula. A clever way to answer the question, Tanisha. I really appreciate that. But that's sulfuric acid, beta. Okay? So,
Yes, sir.
let's revise a few acids that we studied back in chapter number 5. This was a part of chapter number 5. We studied hydrochloric acid, we studied nitric acid, we studied sulfuric acid, we studied phosphoric acid, carbonic acid, and the list goes on. Okay? So let me tell you, I've only used nitric acid and sulfuric acid over here. If I use phosphoric acid, I can actually come up with the fertilizer whose name is written over here, ammonium phosphate. So बहुत आसान है. अमोनियम का जो भी फर्टिलाइजर बनाना उसका लास्ट नेम को देखकर हम उसी नेम से अपना एसिड नेम निकालेंगे. If it's nitrate, हमने इसे किससे रिएक्ट किया होगा? नाइट्रिक एसिड से. If it's sulfate, हमने इसे किससे रिएक्ट किया होगा? सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड से. If it's ammonium phosphate, what have we reacted it with? Phosphoric acid. Do you get my point? So please do not get confused in exam if they come up with a new fertilizer name to ask you the question and you have the tip that the last name of that fertilizer usually relates to the acid that has been used in order to react with ammonia as a gas or as a liquid in order to produce that fertilizer. Do we get the point? If you don't get the point, let me know so I can explain it. Okay, good. If you get the point, then we're going to move on to the next page. Last page. Okay. So, below the diagram, you would see that a fertilizer factory is not just a single unit, but 6 separate plants built close together on the same site, and we can always produce more and more chemicals to react them together, the acids, the ammonia, to get different types of fertilizers. So एक industry से हम एक fertilizer produce नहीं करते हैं. We can produce many fertilizer from the same industry. Hence, we do not put the entire industry or the entire factory in one unit. We put them in different units. A unit producing nitric acid, a unit producing sulfuric acid, a unit producing ammonia, and finally the units producing different types of fertilizers, ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, ammonium phosphate, and the list goes on. Now, these chemicals are actually, these fertilizers are actually used for plant food, healthy leaves, healthy roots, healthy flowers, healthy fruits. They get from these chemicals the minerals in the soil. When many crops are going on the same piece of land, the minerals gets used up and they have to be replaced by artificial fertilizers, the fertilizer we were just talking about, that it should contain the 3 most important ingredients. Now, what are these ingredients? Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which we have studied. Remember, nitrogen is important for healthy leaves, right? So, in which case, in which crop are we going to use nitrogen? कोई ऐसी crop का नाम बताएं जिसमें हम leaves खा रहे होते हैं. जी.
Lettuce.
Lettuce, very good. Any other example? Now, Shahzeb is not going to give an example. He's already given one. I need the other example from any other student of the class. Lettuce के पत्ते हम खाते हैं. और कौन से पत्ते हम खाते हैं? Come on. Think about vegetables.
Spinach.
Spinach, very good. हम पालक खाते हैं. वो प्योर पत्ते होते हैं. वो पत्ते काटते हैं, वही पका के हम खा लेते हैं. ठीक है? Spinach हो गया, फिर cabbage हो गया. ऐसी बहुत सारी examples होंगी जिनमें leaves या leaves का एक conjoint जो होगा, conjunction जो होगा, वो हम use करते हैं और वो हम अपनी direct food के तौर पे daily basis पर भी खा सकते हैं. Coming to phosphorus. Phosphorus are very important to healthy roots. Now, let's come for a few example of roots. Roots में हम कौन सी चीज खा रहे हैं?
Carrots.
Carrots, very good. What else? There are many examples. Think about vegetables.
Sir, आलू खाते हैं.
Yeah, potatoes, onions, radishes, carrots, गाजर हो गई, मूली हो गई, आलू हो गए, प्याज हो गए. These are all roots. ये देखने में हमें proper vegetable लग रही होती है, लेकिन that's a root grown in that form. So phosphorus healthy roots के लिए चाहिए और जब आप crop कर रहे हैं potatoes को, radishes को, carrots को, ठीक है, onions को, तो आप अपनी उस crop पे phosphorus का content बढ़ाएंगे ताकि आपके आलू मोटे मोटे हो जाएं, बड़े बड़े हो जाएं, फिर उनसे बड़ी अच्छी सी finger chips या fries बने और फिर हम उनसे मजे ले लेके खाएं, right? It's easy to understand. Okay, moving on. Potassium. Potassium is important for the production of flowers and fruit. अब आप बहुत सारे fruits के नाम ले सकते हैं जो हम खाते हैं. Let's talk about flower. Which flower do we eat?
Sir, cauliflower.
Cauliflower. Very good. Cauliflower is a flower that we eat. What else?
Sir, broccoli.
Broccoli is also a type of cauliflower. That's clever, but that's good. Let me tell you, हमारे पास बहुत सारे flowers ऐसे हैं जिनसे हम food बनाते हैं, लेकिन उस food को किसी और form में खाते हैं. For example, roses को भी eating purposes के लिए use किया जाता है, लेकिन आप शायद उसके use से familiar ना हो. ठीक है? So ये जो चीजें मैंने अभी आपसे पूछी हैं, ये नीचे वाले पैराग्राफ में दी हुई हैं. They've discussed fruits like apples and tomatoes, which need a lot of potassium. They have discussed leafy vegetables such as cabbage, which need a lot of nitrogen, and they have discussed root crops such as carrots, which need a lot of phosphorus. Okay? So at this point, we are done with ammonia and all of the fertilizers. It included many more equations that are not given over there, the advantages or disadvantages which are not given in the book, and specifically the percentages, the percentage of nitrogen in these, which may be a part of your past paper question, which has been a part of past paper questions actually. Okay? So we do understand completely the whole part of ammonia and fertilizers. If you have any question, please ask. If you don't understand anything, please say it straightforwardly. Don't hesitate to ask. Clear? Okay, that's good. If that's clear, we are almost at the end of our work today. Okay. So let me clear all the annotations, points, everything. So apart from our work today, any questions, any suggestions, or any difficulties that you might have faced because of the online system in my class only? If you have a suggestion, if there is something that you want to discuss, please come forward now. Nothing? Okay, good. If you or any of your colleagues who haven't had any technical issues during the class, let me know timely, and I can always share the recording of the lesson. We are only left with less than a minute, so I'm going to wind it up. As you don't have any questions or suggestions, I'm going to wind it up. So we're done for the day. Take care, class. Allah Hafiz.